Today's topic is very much in continuation with last week's. Last week it was to do basically directly with anger, and today I think it is more from the point of how we feel that we'll only be heard when we are shouting. Last week actually we spoke about adult tantrums. I just heard that word and it really intrigued me, so I just put it out. And again, like sometimes you just read a quote here or you read something which just seems so relevant, because this quote that I read somewhere said, raise your words, not your voice. It's the rain that grows flowers and not thunder, you know. And yeah, so Tanvi Srishti, would you like to introduce something before we go ahead?
Absolutely, Auntie. I think all of us would just correlate with this phrase that whenever or wherever we are, we will only be heard if we shout or if we raise our voice. But unfortunately, we do not focus how much we actually have to focus on our words, on our the way we are speaking. So I think today's talk would just encourage all of us that whenever we are in a group of people, even if we are not heard in terms of our voices, it's the words that matter.
Yeah. And thank you. And also those words can be said in whichever way. Those words can be shouted out also, like a thundering, or they can be spoken gently like a very nurturing rain, like the rain here is really coming from the heart and the thunder is really coming from the mind. That is what came to be when I thought about it. Absolutely. And I know that, a lot of times people struggle with this aspect, particularly in relationships, that, one of the partners really loses it, or he shouts, or she just gets so so aggressive in the speech. Or you see sometimes like we were talking last time about road rage, people just lose it and they feel that if they shout they will be heard. In fact, in one of my healing workshops when I was learning, one of my teachers told me that a lot of times people who shout or get very angry and shout, they feel that if in childhood they've not been heard. And what do we as parents, what do we as parents or teachers do when there's a group of children or a group of students who are just not listening? There'll be suddenly a loud shout from the teacher and everybody will be silent, right? So the children also learn that if I want to be heard, the teacher, if she wants to be heard, she'll immediately shout and everybody will start listening to her. The parent will shout and everybody will start listening to to him or to her. So the child also copies that and also feels that if I shout, if I say what I want to say out aloud, I will be heard. And that's a very, very big misconception, because what actually happens is that you're never heard when you're shouting. You're just never heard. When somebody is shouting, it's not the words that you're speaking. It's just an aggressive energy that you're giving out to the other person. I mean, you'll never say anything lovingly in a shouting way, isn't it? You'll never say anything very loving in a way when you're really shouting. And shouting, I just don't mean in a loud voice. It just means like with a lot of aggression, right? But you can say very aggressive and very strong words in a softer way, isn't it? In a lighter tone, if I may say. So we have to understand that if we really need to be heard, or we want to convey what we are conveying to the other person or the other party or to a group of people, we don't need to be shouting. We don't need to be screaming. We don't need to be, thundering, as this phrase goes. And in fact, as I was just sitting down here to start this talk, what came to me was, something that we hear very commonly on TV, and it's, I think, one of those news channels, Aaj Tak or something, where Rajat, I think is the name of that anchor, who says that जब वही बात आराम से बोली जाती है तो चिल्ला चिल्ला के बोलने की क्या जरूरत है. And I think he addresses some other channel where the anchor is all the time very aggressive and he is like shouting, trying to prove his point. And all the programs, all the sort of talks on that program are always very contradictory, because there are people from the two opposing parties or whatever politically, and each one is trying to throw the thing at each other. It's like a ping pong game, as I say. It's like I'm shouting from here, you're shouting from here. I'm slinging mud from here, you're slinging mud from here. Are you really listening to what I'm saying? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So that's where we need to bring in that awareness, because what happens? Why would you want to shout? Why would you want to be so aggressive? Because obviously you're feeling unheard at that time, or your point of view is not being accepted by the other person, isn't it? And you feel that if I just put myself in, if I really shout and I, say that, instantly I will be heard. But even as children, when children stop doing or stop, stop talking when a parent scolds them or tells them to listen to her, it's only because they get into a fearful space, isn't it? The only reason that the other person or the child stops doing what they're doing is because they feel a fear from the teacher, they feel a fear from the parent. And what is the fear? The fear usually in childhood is that love will be withdrawn from me. My parent will stop loving me, my teacher will stop loving me. So that is why they withdraw and they stop doing what they are doing. It's not because they are agreeing to what you are saying. Of course, there's discipline at one end, which is a different topic totally. But by reinforcing or by repeating the same things 2-3 times, if you're not heard and if you start shouting about it, it is not going to make you be heard by the other person. In fact, what will happen if you start shouting and enforcing what you're trying to enforce, the other person will obviously either withdraw, be fearful, either they'll shout back. If they're not shouting back, they'll just withdraw, they'll just step back. And whatever little chances you had of being heard, those will also be ruined in a way, isn't it? What do you say? Any thoughts here?
Absolutely, Auntie, that is agreeable. But what when the other person always puts you down and you, being neutral, do not have an option because you don't want to raise your voice, but then at the same time you want to be heard, but you do not come up with words that can make the other person shut down?
Okay, so 2 things that you said, Srishti, 3 things actually. The first is, what if the other person puts you down? Now, let us understand, on this platform, we have emphasized, spoken, understood. You're doing a lot of work on yourself. Nobody can put you down if you don't allow that, isn't it? Nobody can put you down if you don't allow it. So that the question turns around again at you. Why do you feel put down? If somebody is telling you that, you're not a good, whatever, you're not a good person, right? If you feel that you're a good person, why will you be put down by the other person? If you are feeling put down, if somebody tells you that, you're not good and you're feeling that, and you're feeling put down by that, that means that you are also agreeing to the other person, isn't it? Or the second thing that comes in our mind, that this person carries such an opinion of me that I'm not a good person, isn't it? But the opinion of the other person, it's just what the other person is feeling. What are you feeling? What is your belief? What is your opinion about yourself? If your opinion about yourself is that I'm just fine the way I am, yes, the other person does not resonate or like a few things about me, but that doesn't make me a good or a bad person. You have to evolve to that level. You have to be in that high vibration. Who can put you down? Nobody can put you down. And if the other person is like, the second thing that you said was that, you want to be heard and you don't want to shout. That time, if you shout or you say anything, you will not be heard, isn't it? So for that moment, just come into awareness, just be silent, just walk away. I advise a lot of people. Today only I was talking to somebody and I was telling her that, if you feel that there is a confrontation or an argument between any 2 people, it can be between 2 partners, it can be between a parent and a child, it can be between 2 siblings, anybody. At that moment, one person definitely needs to exercise some kind of awareness, right? It's a clash of your egos. It's not a clash of the 2 people. Like if there's a couple and they're so deeply in love with each other, they want to get married, they want to go ahead, have a wonderful relationship. But yes, the one of them loses his cool sometimes and gets angry, starts shouting. So does that mean that that person hates you? Does that mean that that person is vicious towards you or vengeful towards you? That's why he's shouting? Not at all. So don't personalize it at all, firstly. He's not putting you down. Why are you personalizing it? He is just shouting. And I give this example, which of course is not a very good example, but I feel it's so apt because it's something which made me reflect. If there are, you're going for a walk and there's so many stray dogs nowadays in all colonies. If the dogs are barking, they will not be interested in you till you turn around and feel this dog is barking at me and he will attack me. If actually you don't have that thought, you just keep on walking, the dogs are just not bothered about you. But if you keep looking and saying, oh, this one is going to attack me now, this one is going to attack me now, the dog will naturally, you'll see the dog coming towards you.
Yeah.
So in the same way, if you feel that the person is attacking you, putting you down or threatening you, you can't. It's only because you are carrying that thought. So his words are feeling threatening towards you. You know what I mean? You don't need to be put down. If you are confident in your space, you are comfortable in your space, nothing can put you down. Right? So you have to understand that if you want to be heard at that time, be in awareness. One person be in awareness. One person out of that group can stand up and say, okay, guys, this is going nowhere. And you know that it is only a drain of your energy. I'm saying something, you are saying something, he's saying something, she's saying something, you're going on. Then it goes on into the past, then it goes on into something that you always do. This is how you are, this is what you said, and you keep digging out all things from the past. And it just goes into a whirlpool without any solution. 2 hours later, 3 hours later, 2 days later, there's no energy or no mention of that also. But at that time, it feels as if this person is just there to hate me, or she just doesn't like anything in me. Our relationship is absolutely not going anywhere. We don't need to be with each other. Doesn't it seem as if it's the end of everything?
Yeah.
So at that moment, one person needs to exercise and say, okay, I'm sorry, I don't think this is going anywhere. Let's just not talk about it. I'm going for a walk. I'm going out into the balcony. I'm going to the terrace. I'm going to cook. I'm going to listen to some music. I'm going to shower, whatever. Just move out from there. But what happens is, what makes you shout is that your ego holds on to you. How dare he say this? How dare she say this? How dare he do this? And then you get gripped in the ego and you're just not able to step away from there. But when we are in awareness, when we are in a high vibrational space, the purpose is not to win the battle or win the argument there. That only the ego will win, isn't it?
Yeah.
What is the purpose there? The purpose there is to come into a state of awareness that if we need to be heard, if we want a resolution to this argument or this point of difference, this is not the time. Because nobody is listening to each other. Nobody is listening to each other, isn't it? And watch this, like next time go on to the TV, I don't know which channel it is, but there is this one news channel in which Arnab Goswami is there. And I mean, pardon me, I'm not a very political person, so I don't understand all this, but all you see is that he's in the center. 3 people are shouting here, 3 people are shouting here. Nobody is listening to each other. Your time is up, your time is up, you're speaking. It's just like, I feel it's absolutely pointless. And again, I'm not judging any channel or anybody from that point. But it's just a very clear-cut example that when, one person is trying to put his point of view, the other person is trying to put his point of view, it's not leading you to anywhere. And you will never come to a solution. Rather, wait for a moment when you are, when the other person is also more receptive. At that time, the other person is not receptive. He's totally closed. She's totally caught and gripped by the ego. So whichever one of you is more in awareness and does not want to, ruin the situation, ruin the day, ruin the relationship, step up at that time and say, this is going nowhere. I think I need to walk out. And at a time when both of you are more open and receptive to each other, just tell each other that, when we get into these arguments, they just become very ugly because it's just our egos that are creating that mess, isn't it? So whenever we go into that, let one of us just step up and walk out, and the other person should not mind. And within a few hours, you will be cooled down and you will be apologizing to the other person saying, why were we fighting? Why were we arguing? Doesn't that happen? So why don't we get into that space of awareness where we say that, okay, when this is happening, if you really, sort of treasure and value that relationship, then just take that time to share with each other and say that, okay, when we get into this kind of an argument, it's not, we are really not going anywhere. And then we just spoil the whole energy, the whole, atmosphere in the house. So either you or I, one person will make it a point to just get up and walk out. And that's fine. Don't, the other person should not feel bad, right? Because otherwise it'll go on endlessly. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Yes, Aunty.
Auntie, it does.
Thank you, Auntie. So, Auntie, here's a question by Vimla, Auntie. It says that, but if both are egoist, what to do at that time?
So see, I'm talking about when you are one person, that is you who are in awareness, is in the midst of that argument, right? If both of them are egoistic and both of them want their egos to clash and they want to bang their heads on each other, you really can't do anything. The best thing would be to step back, bless them, and send them a lot of love and light, that they be, they get that wisdom to resolve the whole issue, right? And don't let your ego come in between. If you are a third person to witnessing something happening, say between two kids or between two friends or something, and you are there and you can totally see that it is a play of the egos and they're too egoistic to get out of it, there's really nothing that you can do at that time but to step back and to pray and to bless them. Don't try to solve and come in between, because nobody is going to listen to you. They're not listening to each other, so forget about listening to you. And that moment, I know it disturbs your peace of mind, it doesn't make you feel good, but the best thing you can really do is to withdraw, retreat into your space and say, okay, fine, do whatever you need to. Whatever is meant to happen is meant to happen. You cannot afford to ruin your peace of mind because of anything, I would say, anything. And you've done your duties as whatever you are, whether you're a wife or whether you're a mother, or whether you're a teacher or whether you're a partner. Beyond a point, it's like, okay, if you people want to fight it out, go ahead. I can't really do anything more. Till when will we keep, trying to cover up here, cover up there, and try to resolve? And as painful as it may sound, but sometimes we just have to, we just have to let them go. We just have to let them go. There's really nothing that one can do. Step back, go into a little prayer mode, do a little meditation, do something to bring yourself to neutrality. Because if you also get into that fear, in fact, the reason that one person is shouting or the other person is shouting is only because they are fearful. They are fearful about not being heard. They are fearful about the fact that things are not going their way, or the other person is not agreeing to what, or how they want the things to be. So if you also get into that fear, then you will not really go anywhere. You will not, in fact, you will add to that whole fearful atmosphere around you. So just step back, just take a step back and say, like bless them, send them some love and light, send them some Reiki on their back heart chakras, so that they just come to peace at that time. That's the best that you can do. If the ego is too strong and it's, consuming them, too bad. They have to evolve to that level where they're not gripped by the ego. And really, like I said, the rain here depicts the heart and the thunder here depicts the mind, the ego mind. So you can always, when you come into awareness, you can always shift into the heart space. Only then you will be heard. Only then solutions will come. So many of you are present here. Has ever a solution come from this point when you're in the midst of, a lot of confusion or you're in fear? You will never be able to see the right picture or get the right answer. Isn't it? So you who are more in awareness, step back, come into your heart space, be that presence, be that, nurturing rain for the others. And let it be. You cannot keep, trying to resolve things between two people who are not ready to resolve it. So I totally understand this question. And in fact, I was going to read this question from last week also. But that was after a talk about adult tantrums. So at that time of confrontation, the affected person is very confused and angry. And, they may become very aggressive and do anything. And the next day, the other person may say, the same person may say that I did not even say anything. In fact, the blame comes onto you because you are blamed that you were lying, in the whole situation. So don't try to resolve beyond a point. You're trying to only ease out the whole situation, but the allegations come on you that you are the one who was, nothing happened. You were the one who's telling me all these stories because they are constructed in your mind. And you know very well at that time, it was like the house is on fire, isn't it? So don't try to resolve beyond a point. Only try to resolve when you know that the other person is in a grounded, calm, centered space and you will be heard. And I'm sure every one of you has tried it at that time and you are heard at that time. But suddenly when something happens and you get caught in that whole fury of the thunderstorm going on inside and outside, it's only your ego that has suddenly got inflated and, said, how dare this happen? And then you go into that whole thundering, adding to the thunderstorm, thundering in your voice, thundering in your words, thundering in your energy. And that's only to make the other person more fearful or scare the other person, that I can do anything at this time. And I'm not saying that one can't. I'm like we were talking last time. There are these times when the person just goes into such an aggressive and furious energy and it's difficult to handle. Isn't it? So the more you practice being in awareness, the more you practice understanding that these eruptions come up when the ego becomes very, very strong and powerful. The more you keep connecting to your breath, the more you come into awareness, practice simple things like meditation or just simply being aware, taking that pause before speaking, the more you'll be able to handle such situations and not lead it into a confrontation. And also another reason why we why we raise our voice in that way is because we feel threatened, isn't it? It's a different way of saying that fear is there. We feel threatened, not just that we are not heard. We feel threatened and we feel that if I shout back or if I really, say some things in a very loud, aggressive way, the other person will know that I'm not threatened, I'm not fearful. But that really doesn't happen because I really, really feel now that it's not your words that are saying what you're feeling. It's your energy, it's your body language. And that's why a lot of times when, there are arguments among couples and there are small children, suddenly you see that the child is withdrawing, the child is very fearful when they hear a loud sound because they've heard their parents arguing, they've heard their parents fighting. And like I mentioned once in a child workshop, I also learned that a lot of times children who have had aggressive parents and they've grown up with parents arguing and fighting, always somewhere subconsciously blame themselves for their parents' anger or fights, even though they may have nothing to do with it. But a small child takes on a lot of blame and feels that this is happening to my parents because of me. They don't know how to process that emotion and they feel that it is happening because of me. And that's why they carry that pain body with them when they grow up. They carry that pain body with them when they grow up. So it's important to be aware. And they might say that, yeah, but my child never heard me shouting. My child never heard us arguing. We would never fight in front of our children. But the children understand the body language more than the words that the parents are exchanging. And that is something which is very, very evident, isn't it? So it's not the words, understand, it's not the words, it's the energy that you're carrying. And that's the energy that comes across and, that's the energy that the children feel. And especially small children, they are like absolutely pure energy. So they can sense it even more than any one of us. They can sense it that easily. Anyone has anything to share or add or ask?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
What if let's take for example, what if other person has made argument and has a loud voice in the family and made his voice as a escape route. For
Mm,
example, as soon as you bring up the topic, as I'm talking about my school or my something, he starts shouting and you have done nothing and this that. So what to do about that? And one more thing, how to deal with uh, in the middle of the argument, and other person is just shouting and just trying to get on you, how to deal with that thing.
mm. Yeah. So I understand it's a very, very good and an easy escape route, isn't it? It's like if I start shouting, everybody will withdraw, everybody will keep quiet, and then I won't have to deal with that whole situation, isn't it? I won't need to deal with that whole situation. So that's why I choose to suddenly raise my voice the moment the situation has occurred or the topic has started. It's to avoid the confrontation, not avoid the confrontation, but just make everybody quiet and escape the whole argument or escape the whole situation. So that's again very similar to what I was saying, that it's there's nothing really that one can do more than not address it at that time, because obviously that's not the time when you're going to be heard. Wait for a time, wait for a moment when you know that you will be heard, and address it then. Address it when you feel that the other person is more receptive, the other person is more open. And see, beyond the point, there is only this much that you can do for anybody. You can only do for yourself. If the other person is not willing to listen, whether it's a child or an adult, it doesn't really matter. And the blame is only always outwardly directed, that you have created it or the situation has created it. My teachers have done this or my parents have done this. You can only, do or say as much. Beyond that point or in the midst of that, the best thing, like I said, you can do is to just be quiet, not from the point of giving up, not from the point of being a loser, you know what I mean? But from the
Mhm.
point of that self-preservation, from the point of self-preservation, that if I'm here in this argument, I'm going to just be drained further more and more. So let me preserve my energy and we can talk about it at a later point. And if it is really so important and it needs to be addressed, then the other person better know that it's time, it's time to be addressed. So the shouting and the arguments cannot take us anywhere. I definitely
Mhm.
need to be in more awareness. I definitely need to be more present and, listen with a cooler mind or a cooler head. But if they don't choose to or it's not happening, then don't put your energy beyond the point there.
Mhm. Yes,
Don't waste
ma'am.
your energy beyond the point, because you'll go on, and what will happen? You will be drained, you will be tired, you will be exhausted, but there will be no solution. And
Mhm.
understand, sometimes the solution is not meant to be at that point.
Mhm.
So just step back, not from the point of resignation or failure. Step back from the point of preserving your energy, that I can't do this. I cannot put my mind to so much unrest that for the next couple of days I'm taking sleeping pills to sleep, because the whole sound, the argument, the shouting is coming into my mind, and I'm really not getting an answer or a solution. If by shouting,
Mhm.
like a lot of times I tell people, if by shouting and screaming you think that you are getting what you're wanting to get, then by all means shout. A lot of times people say, I'm so worried, I'm getting into depression because of something that is happening. So I say, okay, if by worrying and getting into depression you can solve the situation, please do that. But is it solving the situation or is it adding to the problem? It's only adding to the problem, isn't it?
Yes.
Something is not happening and you're worrying about your child not getting a job or anything in that way, and you go on worrying and you're feeling so upset about it, are you helping your child in any which way? Rather use that energy, it's your energy, use that energy to pray, to meditate, to be more positive, that okay, it's a tough phase you're going through, but yeah, don't worry, there'll definitely be the best job waiting for you around the corner.
Yes.
But you can only do that when you are in a positive centered space. If you are feeling defeated from inside and you're trying to use these words outside, it's not going to help, isn't
Mhm.
it?
Thank you, ma'am.
Right? Yeah. And in the midst of the crisis, when you are falling, the moment actually you come into that awareness that this argument is going nowhere, and it's just your ego again. It's your ego will say, come on, go on, go on. The moment you come into your heart space, like I said last time, stop, drop, and come into your heart. Stop, drop, just drop. At that time, your ego is very strong. Just tell yourself these words, just drop the whole thing and come into your heart. Breathe into your heart center. One breath, two breath, and just try to get up and walk away from there. Let the other person feel that you are rude, you don't have any manners, you walked away, you let them think whatever. You just step away and go and do something which gives you peace. Then you will see that, the other person may even come behind you.
Yes, I've seen that.
Yeah. So but be in that awareness at that time, isn't it? What happens is that we also lose it at that time. We can't be blaming the other person. We also lose it at that time, right? So at least you who are here, who understand that you don't want to get into that, this is the best way. And again, understand that when you say you've seen that the other person follows you behind, let's not take that also very arrogantly or get into that from a space of, that's I stepped away and the other person is now coming behind me. Don't let your ego get that thought also.
So how to deal with that if the other person is, trying to apologize and, trying to help you the other day or other
the next
week
day.
or yes.
Yeah.
So how
So understand that it's not about the apology. Like I may be saying sorry again. It's your body language, is how much you really mean. And so many times we say, like even the question that Vimla auntie asked her, it's because the next day the person is just not aware of that anger or that rage that came up at that time, and it was uncontrollable. So even if the next day the person is apologizing or sort of telling you something, you have to tell the person that it's not about a sorry. I mean, these are the closest relationships where you get into these arguments, whether it's with a partner or with a child or with a parent. It's not about the apology or the sorry. It's more about, it's not about the words, it's about the actions. How much do you really mean when you're apologizing? What does this apology mean? Does this mean that you're going to try and work your way and not allow the situation to happen again? I mean, it has to be between both. It's not only one person. Because if one person is quiet and the other is going on talking, he can't go on. The other person also has to be a part. The moment you retaliate or you speak, that's when the argument will start. If one person is going on speaking and you're just not responding, it will not lead to an argument. And maybe the other person gets more agitated that I'm going on speaking to you and you're not replying. But just say, my energy is too precious to me. I can't drain it in this argument. So we'll speak when you're more, when you're more calm, you're more comfortable, we are more open to listening to each other, not at this time. Just maintain your awareness, just maintain your presence, build it up into you. It's not difficult. It's not difficult. And at the same time, let me tell you, I tell this to a lot of mothers, that sometimes you have to be angry or you have to say certain things in a stern way, but do that also with awareness. Don't become one with the whole argument or with the whole anger that you're feeling. Watch that. Okay, so I'm speaking from a space of, where my voice is sounding angry, but I'm watching that. I'm aware because at this moment I need to say it in that way. I'm not being heard in a comfortable way. So speak, be angry also with awareness if it needs to. That will not consume you. Usually what happens, you also start shouting in such a way and you're also on fire from inside, isn't it? But you can be in awareness and say, okay, I mean this, and that's it. And then just walk away. Or just, refrain from going further into the argument. But be aware that you're putting your words there. You are heard, or at least you've conveyed it to the children or to the people, and that's it. You've seen this. When you have small children, you keep telling your child, don't do this. Mana kara hai, mat karo, and the child will go on doing whatever, creating a mess, throwing things here. And then there'll be that one voice of the mother, like it may sound like a shout, but in a very stern way. It needn't be a loud, dialogue. It can just be that one stern. I told you, don't do this, and I mean it. And when you say that, in that tone, the child understands it. Instantly, the child understands it. Because you have put your awareness and you're speaking with that awareness rather than just going on telling the child, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. I'm telling you, don't do it. Then you'll just look into the child's eye and say, I mean, don't do it. And that tone will set everything in position, isn't it? I'm sure a lot of parents here will agree to that. So
Yes,
you
ma'am.
be in awareness with in your presence, even if it is in the midst of an argument. Did that answer your question? I don't know who spoke because your name
Yes,
is.
ma'am. Of course, it was very, very illuminating.
Mhm.
So, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So all the simple things that we talk about, all the simple things that we've been discussing on this group, just come back. The best tool, the best method, the best therapy, whatever you might like to call it, is to connect to your breath. How to connect to your breath? Just simply come into awareness and breathe. Breathe meaning be aware that you're breathing in and breathing out from the tip of your nose. If you shift your entire awareness to your breath, which is always with you, you don't need any bells, you don't need any music, you don't need any therapist, you don't need anybody. You don't need any tools and techniques. Your breath is always with you. In fact, the Reiki that we are doing day after on Monday is just connecting to each chakra and breathing into each chakra. That's healing. So when you connect to your breath, when you shift your entire awareness to your breath, you've disconnected from the argument outside and you've come inwards. All your focus is now inwards. And you'll see that after those 3 breaths or 4 breaths, whatever, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, just make it as short as that. You don't need to go even longer. You'll see that you'll be able to come into the present moment. And your whole approach to it will be different to the whole situation. I say that to a lot of people. Your phone is ringing and oh my gosh, this person is calling me and I haven't done the work, or I'm, in some kind of a crisis. My boss is calling me, I'm getting late. Anything it could be, that phone call that you're trying to avoid or you're fearful of. Pause. Before picking up the phone, take 3 breaths. Bring your awareness to the tip of your nose, breathing in, breathing out 1, breathing in, breathing out 2, breathing in, breathing out 3, and then pick up the phone. And you will see that you will be able to speak to that person or that in that situation in a really different way. The person may just not be shouting at you. You were picking up the phone with the anticipation or an expectation that I'm going to be shouted at. So obviously that's the energy that you're putting out. But when you pick up the phone from a more centered, settled space, you'll see that the other person will ask you, what happened? Why are you late? I hope everything is okay with you. And same thing you can do if you need to reach out to somebody. Rather than instantly, it's all the projections in our mind, He's always doing this, he's coming late, he's avoiding the work, he doesn't want to finish. These are only projections in your mind. So if you want to ask somebody and you want to be heard, speak in that tone. I just hope that everything is okay. You're running late. The message has been conveyed that the boss knows you're running late. Versus picking up the phone and saying, why are you not here on time? You're always late. You're always avoiding work. I mean, that will not give you any answer. That you will not be a person who will be wanted to be heard or, wanting to be around. So you can ask the same thing. You can convey the same message in a loving, gentle way. Express the same concern, express the same need to be in discipline or follow a particular routine or follow a particular order in a more loving way than doing it by shouting. Try it out. I mean, we've seen this with the people who work for us. You always feel that, especially staff at home, our maids, our servants, or people who work for you at home, we always feel so entitled that we have to shout at them and we have to really, we have to say that, okay, we are the maliks, if I may use this, and you are the servants. But that energy has to totally go away. You will never be heard. Those people will be loyal to you and will be hearing you if you speak to them in a very equal space. They also have a whole life. They also have a whole set of issues, problems, same as you. And just because they are sort of coming to serve you or work for you, that does not put them down. Nowadays, not at all. So try speaking to them not as if you own them. If you're paying them, it's not that you need to squeeze out everything for them. Somebody is paying you also. You have a boss on your head. And if nothing else, you have the universe whom you are answerable to. In fact, today only we were doing the Akashic record class, and it's like every thought, every action, every idea is recorded in that causal body or in that higher consciousness. And all of those records replay, all that karma replays in your life. So be aware of everything that you think, be aware of everything that you do. That's how you will accumulate a more positive, say, karmic account. And that's one theory. I'm just talking about the karma theory. Of course, there are other theories. So just try to shift, catch yourself when you feel that, oh, I need to, twice I've told him to put the things on the left, but he's always putting it on the right. So either get up and put them yourself on the right, or try to explain to the person, why can't you do it? Let's try and, just be in a little bit of awareness when you're doing it. And I want it to be put here, don't threaten. Every time we are talking to these people, we are usually trying to threaten them as if, if you don't do this, you'll be fired. And they are not really bothered. Of course, it's their bread and butter. But if they are fired, you are the one who's going to suffer the most, isn't it? One day your house help or your maid or your cook doesn't come, what happens? What happens? But when they come, then it's like, okay, now they are here for the next 10, 12 hours. Let me just totally squeeze everything out of them. We have to change this attitude totally. We have to change this attitude totally. We have to start living from the heart and not from the head. We have to bring in that loving, nurturing heart energy into everything that you do. And then you see how diligently you will be heard, how lovingly you will be accepted, how lovingly your words, your ideas, your thoughts will be accepted. Let's try it. Let's try it. And like I said, even if you need to say something stern or convey something, do it with awareness. Do it with awareness. Know that you are being stern to that other person. Always reflect on what you are saying, that how are these words, what is it that I'm trying to convey in these words? If I'm telling my, somebody to do something for me, am I saying it in a threatening voice? How is it impacting the other person? What is the energy that my words are carrying to the other person? Is it making the other person feel happy? Is it making the other person feel loved? Or is it making the other person feel fearful? Do you really want to make somebody feel fearful of you? Only the ego wants that, isn't it? So catch yourself there. Stop, take a pause and say, okay, let me see how I can say this in a loving way. And you'll get the most beautiful words, and you will see how wonderfully you are heard. How wonderfully you are heard. And even if you're not heard, you will feel good that you spoke from a loving space, isn't it? It's okay. When you need to be heard, you will be heard. We have to trust in the bigger picture. But just shift and start living from this peaceful heart space. It's really, really wonderful. Everything, in fact, again, I'm quoting this because for 2 days we've been so deep in this class that there are so many things that are coming up. We learned that, how we as human beings have evolved from the higher consciousness. We go through thousands of years as say, the stone kingdom, the plant kingdom, the animal kingdom, and then we actually evolve into the human kingdom. So are those stones, those plants, those animals different from you? No, they are just at a different level of consciousness. So see divinity in everything. That too is sort of an extension of the Brahman, of the universe. So just as you have the God within you, you have divinity within you. Each blade of grass, each leaf, each ant, each stone, everything has that godliness, that divinity within them. Just look at everything with those eyes. How can you shout? How can you shout at something which has God in it? And yes, if you're really angry and that there's an argument that you're having with God or a higher power or an angel and say, no, why is this not happening? You're in awareness that you're doing that, isn't it? But try to look at everything. Try to look at everything with divinity. Bless everything. It blesses you. It comes back to you 100 times versus cursing somebody. Or just, I mean, I don't mean literally cursing, but so many times we curse ourselves also, don't we? Again, in SRT, we see that sometimes I'm doing a clearing, it's like, I don't know, thousands of curses you have on yourself. What is a curse? What is a curse? How would you curse somebody? When you're cursing somebody, you would wish bad for them. You would wish bad for them. That's what, in a very simple language, it's like a curse on somebody, isn't it? May she never be successful. May she never have children. May she never be married. May she never get a good job. These are the kind of curses. But so many times we are doing that to ourselves also, isn't it? I never get a good job. I'll never find a partner. My life is like absolutely horrible. I'm never able to do anything. We say this to ourselves so many times, isn't it? So in a way, what are we saying? What are we affirming to ourselves? And we do that mostly when we are not in a very good conscious state of awareness. We say that when we are absolutely in a low vibration. So be aware of even what you're saying to yourself, because you are cursing yourself. I'm telling you, we do that. That's self-punishment. That's self-sabotage. So be aware of even what self-talk or self-dialogue goes on in your mind, because it's all recorded. It's all going out to the universe, isn't it? So be aware of the words that you use for yourself also. Be kind. It has to start at home. Charity has to start at home. So be kind to yourself. Be kind to the people working for you. Be loving to them. Try to, the simplest way we can do is in our communication with them, isn't it? And then whatever else, your actions will be led from there. It's all about expanding from the heart space, coming into a nice, loving space, isn't it? Okay, let's hear from you. Is it making sense? Kavneet, let's hear from you. Your faces, your name is flashing in front of me all the time. Let's hear some loving words from you people. Do you agree, disagree? Does it make sense?
Sujata, you said everything so beautifully that you leave us, at least leave me with no questions.
No, that's not a question. It's just what I feel, what I believe. And it's not that, we've not gone through that. I mean, there are a lot of times that we still lose our cool. There are a lot of times that we still feel angry, isn't it? But I feel that the more we reinforce this awareness, the more we reinforce this positivity that our things can be done, in the simplest of ways, by not really getting into the egoic, getting caught in the ego. Definitely, the more loving our life will become, the universe will become, the planet will become, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. But sometimes I feel that, for me, I would only speak for myself.
Absolutely.
That if I have an issue with somebody, and I know that the past has always kind of shown that this person just starts shouting immediately, and I start crying. That's always been the response. I mean, I just cannot react better. And I realized that with time, as we've grown up, I realized that even though I tell myself, like sometime back when it happened, the same thing, I kind of work on myself that, it's okay, all is well, it's okay, I need to sort this out, I need to resolve this. And I will talk very gently, and I will speak from my heart, and I'm sure I'll be heard like that, like the energy you talked about, right? And that's the way I went. But as luck would have it, the response was the same.
Absolutely.
Maybe the person feels threatened. Maybe the person feels threatened. But today, by listening to you, I kind of realized one thing, that even though I'm telling myself that all is fine, all is well, somewhere deep down, the energy is still of the fact, nahi wo to chillaegi. She is going to shout.
Yeah.
And without even my wanting to feel like that or think like that, I realized today that maybe that is the energy still there, at the bottom. And that's what I go with.
Yeah.
So maybe I think that's where I need to work.
Yeah. And actually, but still, I would say that even if you know that deep down you're carrying that energy, still, if you go there with the harsh or even externally, if your energy is softer, it makes you feel better, and it shows you that little harshness that is still there, that little residue of that harshness that is still there within you. Otherwise, you are also so caught up in the ego that that little subtle ego inside you is not visible. And now you're going with a softer heart space, so that little part of you which still is anticipating or carrying that energy that, yeah, she's always shouting, so she will shout, that is now visible to you. Isn't it?
True.
Otherwise,
Very
you're
true.
projecting yourself with that aggressive energy. So this little subtle energy inside is just not visible because there's no two ways about it. Now you're seeing the left and right side, the dark and the light side of it, isn't it? And like you're saying very truly, you can work on it. Otherwise, it wasn't even visible to you because one is so blinded with that anger or that thing that, yeah, nothing is going to work. So you're going with that, nothing is going to work. So obviously nothing is going to work. So many times people come to me and they say that, yeah, I'm just so fed up of this relationship. My husband, he's never going to listen to me. He can never change. So then I tell them, don't waste your time, waste your money, don't waste my time. When you know he's never going to change, then what are you here for? Either say, yes, I want to change myself. I can help you there. But if you want me that, we should change him and you are living with this belief he can never change, then he can never change. Even if he changes tomorrow, you will not be able to see that he has changed, isn't it? Because your belief is so strong.
So right.
Right. So, yeah, thanks for sharing. That's a lovely
We don't
share.
even see the small changes.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Sujata. God bless.
Thank you.
We are learning a lot from you, Sujata. Good things,
fact,
all good things.
Yeah, I also wanted to point this while something that Sulakshana said. It's also about how we personalize things. How we personalize things, that he's saying this to me. He's not saying it to you. He's just saying it. The threat comes because the to me comes. Isn't it? And I think for the next 1 or 2 Sundays, today only Vinita and I were talking, these 2-3 topics came up. I don't know, most of you are on the Reiki group, and some message that Gitanjali put today morning, because we had a session in the morning and then Gitanjali put that, which so many people wrote to me that it was so good that, that message was put out, because it was for me, because we're just going on in the past and we're not really trying to see what all life is offering us. We have to change that, flip that page. I don't remember the quote, but we'll definitely take it up for next Sunday, and, in a way extending from where we are leaving today, that how we personalize things, and in response to that fear or that personalization comes the anger, or comes the reaction, or whatever we are dealing with. So we'll definitely, let me leave you with that quote, because it was really wonderful. The moment we finished the session, after a few minutes, she wrote to me, and we put it up on the Reiki group. The quote went, "You'll never know how amazing your story can end if you keep living the same chapter. Turn the page, my love, turn the page." So it's like we're really, going round and round the same story, but we need to now really turn the page, flip the page. So we'll talk about this next week. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining.